Meeting is being recorded.
Welcome everybody to our Understanding Credit Scores and with Dave Oliverio. And let's talk about Dave for a minute. I'm Cindy Bishop, for those of you that might be new, that don't know me, and I run the school. Dave Oliverio comes to us today with 30 plus years in the mortgage banking business and is currently the Vice President and Area Manager for SWB DC area. Even more than experienced and respected as an expert in the field of real estate financing, Dave is a great mind. And what I mean when I say that is he understands the complexities behind the scenes. I've done a handful of refinances with Dave personally, and my oldest daughter, has bought 2 houses with him. And he maneuvers and manages the transactions as far as your end of the deal with him, with the loan. He's just so knowledgeable and so able to kind of legally manipulate the best deal for you. I've never seen anything like it. And I've been in this business since '88. So it's been, and I always prided myself on being with lenders that I thought were really superior. So I just wanted to mention that because it's really difficult to find a team player. It's certainly easy, very easy to find an order taker. Okay. There's big differences. Dave can also help with credit improvement, as long as the buyer is, of course, motivated. Dave is also a very valued instructor with us. He's also a very big supporter of the school, even created a hosting location for us to have in-person classes, of course, before COVID, in his office, which we really appreciate. And we are actually getting back to doing one a month there, starting in September. Agents and consumers love Dave, as indicated by thousands of feedback sheets and also his repeat business. So Dave, take it away.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Cindy. And yes, I would. This is what I try to do. Is on every, like in every occasion, pre-approval, of course, once under contract, is ultimately just come up with solutions which is in the best interest of our borrower and our real estate agent. I mean, in general, like every time. And I think this is what I've done over the years is I keep digging in. I've done tons of business. But every loan that I get, for whatever the reason, I appreciate one loan at a time, whether it's 50,000 or 100,000 or 2 million. I appreciate it. So, and what I also do, I don't rest on my laurels, quite frankly. Like, I do not rest on my laurels, because in this business, I think Pat knows this. If Ashok Varma's there, he knows this. A lot of you already know it. In the way it is in the lending world, we're as good as our last loan that we closed. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. You could do 100 loans perfectly. That just means that 101st loan, you have to do that perfectly. And I understand that. But at any rate, this is what we're going to try to do during this next hour, is come up with some practical solutions for you to help your buyer in the pre-approval process, and to help your buyer to add value to your relationship as an advocate for your buyer, your purchaser, from the time that the contract's ratified to the settlement date. So that's in essence what we're going to try to accomplish today. So quite frankly, how can you, the realtor, be more valuable, add more value to your relationship during the pre-approval process with your client? And then once they've ratified the contract, is there anything more you can do to help them in terms of increasing and or improving their credit score? And why would we think about that? Because that has a lot to do with the terms of their loan. The higher the credit score, the better terms they're going to get. And what I hope to convey today, to show you today, is that in many instances, it doesn't take a lot to get to that next bar where you can improve the rate or points and or lower the PMI fees. And maybe just some other, like what I normally do is like what I've done the previous week, the previous 3 weeks, there's normally something that always comes up that I can convey to you, which we were able to help our bar, help the realtor. And some of them, it's not dramatic, but helpful, that improves their lot in terms of the loan. And then improves the relationship with the agent, enhances their value with their borrower. So improves the relationship. The importance of credit scores in residential loan financing, and I think I've just alluded to that. Agencies, when they're talking about agencies, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, VA, FHA in particular, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they have what's called loan level pricing adjustments. And in the next few slides, we'll go over those loan level pricing adjustments. And that's all that means is that, hey, the lower your score, the worse your rate's going to be. In general, the higher your score, the better your rate's going to be. And when we go over these slides, we could figure out pretty quickly what the message, the signal that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are sending to the industry. It's going to be pretty easy to figure that out, their signal, their message to the real estate industry and to the mortgage industry. How do you determine an interest rate? The Fannie and Freddie guidance on credit scoring. And we'll talk a little bit about the VA and FHA like loan guidance and their comparisons. And as I think we probably all have figured this out, is that the government insured loans, they're a lot friendlier for lower credit scores than the conventional loans are friendlier. Okay, what does your credit score indicate? It's essentially the best guide to future risk based on all the variables in your credit report. The higher the score, the lower the risk. This means it's a predictor of how one will make their payments in the future. So basically, now, there was a day, and some of you will remember this, there was a day when there was no such thing as a credit score. And that wasn't that long ago. Like, quite frankly, up to, I believe, 1995, we were not obligated to use credit scores. There was no such thing as a credit score in the 80s and the early 90s. Didn't even see it. So why am I bringing that up? Because no credit scores, we as a lender, and a lot of the lenders, we're not the Lone Ranger, a lot of the lenders in this area, they're going to look at a credit report without scores and see the trade lines, look at the balances, look at its seasoning, look at the credit, try to get a feel for it, and then make a decision. Quite frankly, that was a perfect world for me and the companies that I was with, because we were pretty good at figuring out, okay, what is truly a good credit report, what is also a credit report that may have had some dings in the past because of a job loss or because of whatever, but are showing some improvement. We could make those decisions without that credit score hanging over our back, our neck. So, like, for us, it was great. Okay, but this is where the rub is that we were out there to make loans. Many of our competitors in this area were out there to make loans. Of course, if they deserved it, but our whole focus was on let's stay positive. But you could go to other areas, maybe in the cities or whatever, where you could get that same credit report and that lender may look at it differently. Okay, maybe they would deny the same loan many lenders in Northern Virginia would approve because of that, because of it was effectively and essentially too subjective. So credit scoring came out to standardize the process, quite frankly, to make it more fair. So if it's a 720 is a 720, 680 is a 680, no matter where they go. And then with these automated systems, it's even standardized it further. So basically, it's quite frankly, an effort to move away from potential discrimination and standardize all reports. That's the whole purpose of why these agencies came up with credit scoring in general. So basically, let's keep going here. Okay, this is really the heart of it. Interest rate impacts of credit scores. Okay, now, once again, this is for conventional loans. We did this example with making a 5% down payment and doing a conventional loan up to $647,200. So that's that's what we use as a basis for this. Now, also we did this a few days ago, and quite frankly, the rates are nudging slightly lower than that in the last couple of days. This was, a matter of fact, done yesterday morning, and since then we've had some slight improvements, but this will be close. So 5% down, assuming a loan amount of 647.2 or under. And now this is what my point is about. Can you, doing a pre-approval, during that tenure, that time, is there a way you can help your client improve their scores, thus improving their rate? And this is what my point is. And this is why we basically made these bars so they're very clear. So now obviously, if we take a look at 740 and above, now these are also at 0 point. This was a 0 point quote. Okay. So at no points, 740, 5.25. Okay. That same 5% down loan to 647,000 loan amount, say 660 sale price. Let's take a look at a 620 to 639. The difference, 1 1/8%. Okay, but probably more realistically, we said, well, let's be practical today. Okay, more realistically, and I've seen this, believe me, more than just a few times. Let's go to the 680. Let's take a look at the 680 to 699 in that tranche. Okay, 5 5/8. Okay, then let's take a look at the 700 to 719, 5.5. So basically, this is what we're saying. This is if you have a client who has a 699 credit score, and you could figure out a way with the lender to raise their scores by 11 points, which in many cases can happen very quickly, they improve their rate by 1%. So let's just say we have that 699, 680, they're somewhere around 699, and you can raise it by 21 points to 720. Improve their rate, what? That's from 5 5/8 to 5.25, almost 3/8%. For what? For 25 points. So, and then you may say, the first question is, well, how can we do that? Okay. How can we be like, we're not the lender, which sure you're not the lender, but this would be my suggestion, is like bear down with your favorite lender when those scores come up. Hey, can you send the client all 3 scores from Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, and let's just see how close we are to these different bars. And then, hey, let's take a look. Let's go to what they're called credit predictors. Let's see if we can pay down this credit card by $800 or $1,000, what's impact be? Well, it raised the score by 21 points. Will it put us in to a new tranche? Can it improve our scores? This is standard fare. Now, the lending market has been, we're a lot less busy now. So more time to go in and think about it and work on solutions. We're for 2.5 years inundated, less time to do that. But it is certainly possible to take the time. This is especially if you in the pre-approval process. There are plenty of time to go in to take a look at some examples of especially revolving credit, and see what the opportunities are to raise the scores, to get them into that upper level bar to improve your scores. Because see, standard fare, the lender will get the scores, and then they're going to lock the rate in or determine the rate based on that initial pool. Because quite frankly, it takes time to go back to a credit predictor. It's also, so you do the credit predictors, that costs a few dollars, then the lender has to pay for that. And then once you come up with that prediction of, okay, this is where the scores will be if we pay a revolving credit down, or if we raise a credit limit, or if we're able to delete. And when I say not pay off a collection, but to delete the collection, what will those new scores be? So these credit predictors will come up, and they're very reliable, normally within a few points, very reliable. But from that point, what the lender has to do is literally go back to their credit agency where they ordered the credit from and ask them, request them, okay, we want a rescore. And a rescore could take anywhere from a few days to a week. But if you're writing a 30-day contract, there's still time to do that. See, once they do a rescore, like let's just say they need to lock it in quickly because the market's all over the place and moving. If they lock it in on a 699 score, in that next week, if the score increases, they can improve the rate based on that original lock that they did at 699 because of these loan level pricing adjustments. So that's what they would do. They would go back to their secondary department. Hey, we've got an improvement to now 720 from 699. What is our new improved rate? So what my point is that it's certainly, there's plenty of time during the pre-approval process to improve or to increase scores, but probably even more importantly, from the day that contract is ratified, you have a 25, 30-day settlement, there is still time from the time they lock it in. So they have it locked, they have it secured, excuse me. So they already have it secured at the whatever that credit score was at the time, but if they improve it, they still can keep the original lock, but just improve the rate based on the new score. So this is where I think you could be valuable to your buyer, just by being aware of what their credit scores are, being aware of where these bars end. Like if you're at a 699, there just may be a way to get to 700, right? 1 point, 2 points. If you're at a 685, 15 points. And let's say you can't get there, you cannot get there. What my opinion would be, hey, your bar is going to appreciate the fact that your buyer's going to appreciate, your client's going to appreciate the fact that you're thinking about their best interest and how you might be able to improve their situation for many, many years to come. Even if the lender goes in, does their thing, does a credit predictor, say, sorry, there's no way in 30 days that we're going to be able to increase their scores, or 10 days or 5 days. And sometimes that happens. where it takes a longer period of time, can't do it, but at least you've made the effort to improve the lot of your client. So basically, that's I think that's pretty significant, quite frankly. Are there any questions on this? Okay, all right.
Oh, wait, I had to, my button wouldn't click off. Okay. How can you improve a locked rate once it's locked? Does it not cost the borrower to unlock it? And that's the only question.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. See, when we lock in a loan, it's locked in according to the down payment and the credit score. Okay, so it's locked. If you improve the credit score, that does not change the conditions of the lock, but it will, so you get to keep, you have a secured lock, improve the score and improve the rate with that secured lock with its term. So it doesn't unlock the loan, it just improves the rate with the original lock. Because you see, that is what the loan level pricing adjustments are. So basically, the like, and you see, quite frankly, this is what I do, because I have borrowers that I want to make sure it's all out in front so they understand it. So like we had a borrower that had like a 667 score, 670 score conventional loan, and they were paying off some big time credit cards. When I say big time, high balances in relationship to their credit limit. And we ran a credit predictor showing that if they did that, maybe it was a 680 score, that it could get over 720. But our borrower said, well, how do we know that we're going to get that? Like you want to lock it in because the rates may move up. But when we do improve our scores, because see, when we disclose, like when that loan's disclosed, it's disclosed at the credit score, current credit score. So what I do personally is I send them out a loan estimate. I send them out a loan estimate book and letting them know, look, when we disclose, your rate's going to be at 680. I'm going to send you out a loan estimate at 720 with your rates, assuming that we can raise your scores to 720. So there's no confusion. It's not what we plan to do. If we can raise your scores to this number, this is what your rate will be. And so I make sure that I send out those loan estimates so everybody's perfectly clear. Yes, we did lock it in at the 680. Yes, with the higher rate. But if we can get to 720, this is what your new rate will be. So, but to answer your question, you do not have to unlock the loan, but you can improve their scores. So
Okay, well, let's go through the other two questions now that you said that. The rate, let me go up here. The rate change to the new rate due to a credit score improvement is the rate on the day of the original lock, correct? Then the secondary question to that is, oh, you can improve the rate.
Yeah, understood. Those are good questions, and this is the process. So that person that went from 680 to 720, and that did happen. That absolutely did happen. What we do is what's called redisclose. The Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act requires, like when there's a change like that, so we had, like within 3 business days, we redisclosed. So basically what they did, they got just a new disclosure at the better rate. The process essentially the same, they just saw a better rate. So when we improve the rate, it's best to redisclose, but that's how that is done. So it's just called a redisclosure. So we resubmit to them the new rate. So they have it, they see it, they sign it. So that's how that is done. From the original lock with the lower rate. So so the term of the lock does not change. What does change is the rate changes. And once again, it's all because of how Fannie and Freddie what they came up with, now it's been a number of years ago, with what's called this loan level pricing adjustment. I don't know if you all remember this, but when they first came out with credit scores, when Fannie Freddie came out with credit scores, believe it or not, for a number of years, like 680 was considered, okay, you're at 680, everybody's happy. Okay, at 680, at 680. Then they came up with these loan level pricing adjustments. This was what my point was, the message or signal that Fannie or Freddie's trying to send to us. I think it's pretty obvious when you take a look at the rate from 620 to 639, and then the rate at 640 to 659. You know what that's telling us? The signal is, hey, we don't want to make loans with credit scores pretty much less than 680. That's basically, that's like that's basically send them somewhere else. Like that's what the message is, quite frankly, and that's one of the reasons. So it's a way of getting more of the cream of the crop and trying to push it off maybe to FHA. That's an opinion, but like, who's going to go for 6 3/8 on a 620 to 639 when they can get 5 1/4, 5 3/8 on a, and it's not only that interest rate, it's the PMI companies with the low credit scores like that, very, very high for monthly PMI. So that's the message that Fannie and Freddie are sending to the mortgage industry. Okay, so I think this is pretty important. Okay, so that was the previous slide was, okay, that's interest rate. Now this is based on a $400,000 loan amount, once again with 5% down. So 400,000 and the cost. Now, obviously, if it's a $600,000 loan amount, that cost is going to increase. But so this is cost based upon the loan amount. So 400 in this area, we do plenty of loans for more than 400, but that's a fair, I think it's a fair example. So basically what this slide is indicating that, hey, there's like if you want to get the same rate for 660 to 699 as a 740 at 400,000, you're going to be paying $8,000 more for it. What that means is from 660 to 679, that means that's 2 points that you're going to be paying more than if you have a 740 score. So pretty dramatic. Now, the reason that we didn't do lower than that, because it's pretty much ridiculous. Like getting to like 620, then to 640. It's so high that, and the PMI so high, it's just then our next step, okay, let's take a good look at FHA, where the rate is going to be significantly lower, and the PMI will be significantly lower. So based on a $400,000 loan amount, effectively, see the 720 to 739 tranche, 1/4 of a point. That's so basically the way Fannie looks at this and Freddie looks at this, 720 and above, you're pretty close for rate. Optimum is 740 as far as rate is concerned. So optimum rate, so you can have an 800 credit score or 740 credit score. It's not going to impact on the premium rate that you can get. So 720 is pretty close. You see 700 to 719, that's effectively 3/4 of a point. 680 to 699, 1 full point, and that's 1% of the loan amount. So 680 to 699, 1% of the $400,000 loan amount is $4,000. So obviously pretty heavy cost. So that's why, keep going back to, that's why it's significant, if possible, to nudge those scores up.
is being recorded.
Uh-oh. He needs to share again. They have
Okay.
problems with their internet. Oh, no, you're there. What happened there? What happened to you? Oh, you got to just do another share.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. We're good now, right?
No, we don't see a thing. We see you. There we go.
Okay, how about now?
Perfect. Except it's two screens, but it's showing up the next slide. So it's not, and everybody can see it. So I would say just go ahead. Also, there's a last question. Is the rate the current day or the original day of the rate lock? That was in talking about rate improvements if your credit improved.
Yes, the rate will be based on the original day of the lock. So what the point is that you can secure, like you're securing a rate at a 680 score. If you can improve that to whatever, 700 or 720 score, it goes back to the original lock, but an improved rate. So it's never what's called floating, because you've secured the lock, which you've done because of the Fannie Mae loan level pricing adjustments. You're allowed, for instance, like if on that day they had a 740 score, that would have been the improved rate. But on that day they had a 680 score, so that's the rate they get. If it's improved, they get the benefit of the lower rate with the original lock, so there's no floating involved. Did that answer your question?
She says understood. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So you do not have to worry about, oh, now we lost the benefit of the lock. You have the benefit of the lock. Okay, let's take a look at the cost of impact of credit scores on loans with PMI. See, it's also, now we're also, once again, 5% down on loans. So there will be PMI for a while. Okay, so, and if you can look at cost of PMI, and now if you'll notice 760 and above, so best rate 740 for terms of rate, for the lowest PMI monthly fees, it's 760 and above. So another tranche. So you can keep improving, lowering your PMI monthly payment, and then they stop at 760. But so if we're looking at that $400,000 loan amount with 5% down and 760 and above, $80 per month. Now 740 to 759, not bad. What's that? $30 per month difference, but $30 is, is $30, right? That could go to pay for a lot of things these days, but it's not super significant. But let's look at 720 to 739, between that and 760. That's 37 and 20, that's 57 a month. It starts to get serious. How about 700 to 719, 170 versus 80. So obviously 680 to 699, but being realistic, let's look at that 699 score, and then we go up 21 points to 720, 213 to 137, 13 and 63 is what? That's $76. So if you go from 699 to a 720 score, you can save, we said, $66 a month. Now that's moving it up 21 points. So the whole point is, you're not only, by increasing those scores, you're not only improving the rate for the life of the loan, but you're lowering your buyers, your clients' PMI cost. So when you add both of those together, I'd say pretty significant. So it not only impacts on the interest rate, but it is being recorded. God. Hey, Jim.
Yeah, you guys are having some internet problems.
Yeah, well, why don't you come on in for a second? This thing is disconnecting. Bless it.
All the time.
Yeah, it's twice.
Well, you in it?
I just hit share, so
So you just go back and hit share and you're right back.
let's see, it's got a double screen.
Oh, here.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
perfect. It's perfect. But there's something wrong with the
Just got
connection, I think.
Okay, let's see. So basically, I think, are there any questions on the PMI?
Nope. We're good.
Okay, good. But once again, you can see it is significant. And just another quick comment about PMI. Over the years, quite frankly, it's gotten friendlier. So meaning friendlier, meaning lower PMI premiums. And the by law, and quite frankly, by law, you can and your purchasers, our borrowers, all borrowers at settlement, they get terms of, okay, worst case, this is when you can remove your PMI. And then there are other opportunities, no guarantees, but other opportunities. So they literally will have in their disclosures the date that they can remove their PMI per the laws, through a regular amortization schedule. So basically, and then if they have 20% or do some additions or major prepayers, 20% equity appreciation, there are other opportunities to remove that PMI other than through the regular amortization schedule. So obviously PMI is not going to be there for life. Okay, these are just some tips. And some of these are pretty, like most of you probably have figured this out, I'm sure. But these are some tips to improve your credit. Very important not to close an account after paying it off. Now, believe it or not, we do have people that they think, especially a fair amount of first-time home buyers, they think, hey, I'm going to pay it off and close it. That helps. Paying off, and especially a seasoned account, paying off and closing it will lower your credit scores. So we say, like immediately when we have our meeting, either Zoom meeting, telephone conference, or occasionally people come in, very occasionally these days. But we of course, try to give them our best advice on that. Okay, that's called tip 2, it's literally called a utilization rate. So basically what that means is that the lower your balances are according to your credit limit, the better chance you're going to have of a higher score. Okay, so and as a ballpark, and you see it's a moving target. It depends upon how many trade lines one has, seasoned trade lines they have. The more trade lines, the less impact. The less trade lines, the more impact if you have a balance over 25% of your high credit limit, not your high credit limit, but of your credit limit. So, but in general, the lower that you keep the balances, the lower that your client keeps their balances, the better off they're going to be in terms of credit scoring. And this is, not to be repetitive, but this is where also there can be opportunities to raise scores if they have a balance of 50% of their high credit or 60%. Could just be paying off a few dollars and raising that score by a few points. So, but in general, keep your balances low. And I think we've all probably gone through this, but when you co-borrow or co-sign, you're of course liable for that account, because it's jointly and severally liable. So car loans, credit cards, installment loans, and other types of credit, if you have to sign, in general, this is what my suggestion is, and probably a lot of you already know this. If you're going to co-sign, then monitor that account. Now, we have had, it happens, unfortunately, some rare occasions where, the parent will sign for their children or for a relative, somebody will sign for a relative and trust the fact that they're going to make the payments on time. They don't make the payments on time. They forget to make the payments, or they went on vacation for 30 days, and boom, they get blindsided. So if you are going to co-sign, then we would suggest monitor the account. Like when I co-sign, personally, I make sure every month that payment is made. But that's also because when I co-sign, I also make the payments. So basically, that's pretty easy. So but one day things may change with me. My daughter may take over that when she's ready. But at any rate, the point is to, if you're going to co-sign, monitor. Okay, you say, let's just say you had a credit limit of $2,000 and you owe $1,000. So your balance is $1,000, your credit limit's $2,000. That's 50% of your credit limit. Okay, you go back to your card, raise it to $5,000, then you're at 25%. So raising your credit limits can help improve credit scores. So raising your credit limits can help improve credit scores. So meaning if at the moment you don't have the money to pay the balance of $1,000 down, see if your client can raise their credit scores. Now, we only put this slide on to get to the next slide. And I think we all understand that you want your clients to pay their bills on time. Like we all, that's a goal for all of us, to pay the bills on time. But this second sentence, like in general, a late payment's not going to be incurred until it's 30 days late. So if it's 10 days late, 12 days late, they may get a finance charge, but they're not going to get a 30-day past due. So they do have 30 full days to make that payment without showing up on the credit report as a late payment. So it can be 5 days late, 10 days late, 15 days late, but they'll be subject to a finance charge. Okay, so this is the follow-up to pay your bills on time. And in general, this is pretty standard fare. How long can a derogatory count remain on a credit report? So if we take a look at these, we could see that, a rule of thumb would be, hey, figure on 7 years if you had a rule of thumb. But let's just take a look at the first one, late payment accounts delinquents, 7 years from the initial date of missed payment. Now, what really hurts is, hurts in terms of credit scoring, are recent late payments. I mean, on a revolving account, a recent late payment on a revolving account, if you have thin credit, meaning not a lot of trade lines, it could be 100 points. 100 points for a 1 times 30 on thin credit. If you have some season accounts, it could be 60, 70 points. Okay, you might say, well, how do you know that? Or why do you say 100 points? Why do you say 60 or 70? Because this is what occasionally happens, is that we'll run a 3 bureau credit report, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. 2 of the bureaus will catch the most recent late payments, 1 will not. And that pretty much gives us an idea of the difference between the 1 bureau that didn't catch the recent 30-day late to the 2 bureaus that did. And what we have seen, because unfortunately it does happen, but we have seen on season credit maybe a good 60 to 70 points. On thin credit, not a lot of accounts, a good 100 points. I mean, it's huge. And you see, this is where probably another fine point is that, we've had people that have terrific credit, like season, paid on time, revolving, car loans, mortgages. And then they have a Macy's account where they have $5 on. They pay it late, 30 days. Or some account with $5 on it, they forget to pay it. And they get they really get blasted. Quite in my opinion, in my opinion, I don't think it's a fair assessment. When you have season credit, you have a $20 balance, maybe missed it, and then you get slammed. But that's why it's critical, especially within in the 12-month preceding loan application, is to make those payments on time, to make them on time. Charge-off, 7.5 years from the initial date of the missed payment. Collection, 7.5 years from the initial date of missed payment. Bankruptcy, 7 and 11, 10 years. It should say 10 years. Bankruptcy, 7-11. So the bankruptcy is, 7-11 is 10 years. I don't see that number on there, but it is 10 years. So Chapter 7-11 bankruptcy, 7 and or 11 is 10 years. Chapter 13, where they agree to pay some of their balances down, part of their balances down. And that's pretty much 7 years, maybe 7 years plus. Paid or released tax liens will remain on the file for 7 years from the date of payment. So on a tax lien from the date of payment will remain on the file. If they're not paid, if tax liens aren't paid, they could be on the file indefinitely. So unpaid tax liens indefinitely. Judgments, 7 years from the filing date, regardless of the payment status. So 7 years from the filing date. Credit inquiries, 24 months, pretty insignificant after a handful of months, but it stays on it's a part of the credit for 24 months. But credit inquiries are, in my opinion, they're way over, they get too much input, or I believe the general public thinks there's too much of an impact on credit inquiries when there's really not. For instance, in the mortgage industry, in our industry, you could order a credit report from lender 1 today, lender 2 10 days from today, lender 3 14 days from today, with no ding on your credit report. You could probably do that within a 30-day period, but definitely, without a doubt, the way the algorithms work, you are not penalized in the same industry, in our industry. Definitely you're not penalized ordering 3 credit reports in a 2-week period. There will be not one iota of change in those credit scores. So yes, you can do that with no, and quite frankly, you could probably get it to 30 days, but definitely within 14 days, with no doubt about it. Because each of the credit bureaus have grace periods, and the one with the least amount of grace period is 14 days. The other 2 major, Experian's 14 days, Equifax and TransUnion are much longer than that. But obviously, we want to go by the one that has the least amount of grace periods. So basically, and the reason I mention that is because I do, like when we get phone calls when somebody else is, they've gone online to whomever and they'll call back, well, this is going to hurt my credit scores. I don't want to run the report. No, like, when did you run your credit report? Yes, maybe we can help you, but we certainly, when we pull your credit, it certainly isn't going to hurt you within that grace period of the credit bureaus. So that's probably something else to think about. Okay, we said authorized bars, authorized users, and we're getting pretty close here, but an authorized user, this is, we talked about, okay, raising those scores from bar to bar. This is where you can be, possibly add value to your relationship with your clients. This is something else, depending upon the lender, an authorized user account may be helpful in the process. Okay. So in general, and these are the guidelines. So your buyer has very thin credit, maybe doesn't thin credit, lower scores. You have the way it works best, have your client go to their parents and get a seasoned account with very low balances. So season means, probably should have said this before, 24 months or more. That's a seasoned account. So 24 months or more. So go be an authorized user, meaning, hey, you can use the card, but B, you're not liable for the card. So A, you can use a card, but you're not liable. Okay, if we're doing a conventional loan, and there is there's a small, there's a small balance. After our borrower, your client, makes 3 payments, we can use that account for their account for just 3 payments made on time. So, and what that's going to do is that's quite frankly going to raise their credit scores. It will definitely raise their credit scores. Okay, but you need 3 payments to do that. So the key is seasoned account with low balances. And then, so this would work better, obviously, in the pre-approval process. We would run it, take a look at it. Look, we need to figure out something. Okay, maybe they're not ready now, but let's get that seasoned trade line, low balance, make 3 payments. We've just raised their score from 640 to 720. I mean, it could be significant because it reads it as a seasoned account. And then you have the Fannie Mae guideline, and that's the 3 payments. Okay, now if we go to FHA, if we look at FHA, literally no payments are required by the authorized user. No payments are required. So what does that mean? Okay, an example, we just, matter of fact, they're about ready to go to closing. We ran their credit, it was a father and daughter, ran their credit report in May. Father's credit was somewhere around 620, the daughter's credit was 640. We got them both an authorized user. We didn't do it. They did it, of course, but they went out and got a relative to allow them to use their account, seasoned. Wasn't seasoned a whole lot, but it raised their scores, not huge, but another 20 to 30 points. Okay. No requirement for them to make the payment. Now, the only thing on an FHA loan, the only difference on an FHA loan, whatever that monthly payment is, that's carried as a debt against them. Okay, whatever that monthly payment is. So basically, seasoned account where they're not paying $200 a month on it, where they're paying a relatively minimum balance. But the point is that we could use that immediately without waiting the 3 payments to be made by the authorized user. And we have greatest impact on scores when added to a seasoned account. So the key, seasoned account and low balance. But you see, this is another way of figuring it out to help your borrower. Now, once again, all lenders are different. So all lenders are different. So, obviously, these are like, okay, avenues that you need. Okay, will this work? How will your underwriter look at it? Standard fare. See, standard fare in this automated world that we're in, you run it through a system, the automated system accepts it, the underwriter is going to feel pretty comfortable with it. And also, underwriters are normally focused on guidelines. So if they see an authorized user account's been paid for 3 months, they're not going to ask for that account to be deleted because it's been paid for 3 months. On an FHA, because no payments are required, they're not going to ask for that account to be deleted. If there's a payment on the account, they'll include it as the debt. So that's a possibility, but I'd say check with your lender to see if in general they accept accept that type of opportunity. Okay, this is fairly simple. Like, we know, like, from the time of application to settlement, essentially, we tell our borrowers, stay pat. Do not, do not do anything. Do not make any inquiries. Please stay pat. So don't buy a car, boat, large purchases. Okay. And I've been speaking of this since we've been on this how credit works. This is just the type of credit predictors that we use to try to figure out how to improve, how to increase a credit score. Just names of credit scenario predictors. And on slide 16, where you could go to order, you can literally get, per the Federal Credit Reporting Act, 1 free report for each repository every 12 months. So what you could do is check it once every 3 months with each repository. So then every 90 days, you're checking your credit. And this is the toll-free number to opt out of pre-screen offers.
So, okay, so we almost done. The reason I'm asking.
Yeah.
I
We're
have a lot of
done.
questions and I need to get through these.
Okay,
so
go ahead.
Anybody that needs to leave can. I'll always send you the recording if you miss it. Okay, so first thing is, how do lenders treat bankruptcy?
Well, depending upon the type of the loan, like if we were in general, like if you had to take general VA 2 years, FHA 2 years, Fannie, Freddie 4 years in general. From the time of bankruptcy, that's when they're eligible. So 2, 2, and 4. We recently closed an FHA loan that was maybe 20, like we started processing it 20 days after the 2-year period of discharge. It worked. Credit, his credit wasn't bad. It was in the 670s. Did have self-employed, but he was self-employed for a while. But literally, so they're eligible 2 years, 2 years, VA 2 years, FHA 2 years, Fannie Freddie 4 years. Yeah, go ahead.
Next question. Is it true that a lender can see when a mortgage payment is paid late, even if it's not 30 days late? And does this hurt a credit score?
Well, because it's not 30 days late, it won't impact on the credit score. But what many lenders are doing these days, you see the credit report, like if we do a credit report today, it may give us a June rating, okay, on the credit report. What many lenders are doing is they're asking to see, okay, latest mortgage statement showing July and August possibly. And that's where they may see, if it's 15 days late, obviously they're going to have some concern, but the biggest concern is the 30-day. And it absolutely will not change a credit score, because credit score is 30 days late, not 15 days late.
Okay, excellent. Can lenders work with clients who have a few missed payments and or slow payments, etc.?
My answer to that, it's a possibility. We, in general, have to see the entire picture. Meaning, do they have other trade lines that aren't slow? It's a big picture, a lot of questions. Why do they have slow payments? But to answer your question would be, that's where you need to dig in. There was a time in slower markets, really up through maybe 2017, 2018, but many years, I would have an agent that would bring them in on day 1, day 12th month we closed the loan, or 6 month or 7 month or 8 month, because we all knew it was a project. And so every 45 days, everybody comes back, okay, where are we? Sometimes we would send them to a credit repair company. In general, quite frankly, would not give up. Like, I would at least make the inquiry, see where they stand, see what they need to do, because in general, not for every client, but sooner or later, they're going to become a buyer. Like, if they have some discipline and if they're willing to make some corrections over the year or a year and a half or 6 months. So I'd say try it. See where they stand.
The next one, how many points is a person's credit score affected when they are shopping for a mortgage loans?
Should be virtually, I'd say maybe a point or two. I'd say quite frankly, virtually no impact. Now, the way it will be impacted, let's just say the 60 previous days, they went to 2 or 3 different revolving accounts, an installment account, like an auto loan, and then they make their mortgage inquiries. Yes, they could lower their credit scores a little bit, but in general, credit inquiry scores are overrated. Quite frankly, I mean, dropping the score, it's way overrated.
Okay, next one. I thought I had heard something recently that paid off medical bills are supposed to be removed no matter the level of delinquency. Is that true? And how does that work?
In general, medical collection accounts are generally disregarded. Like, even if they have a balance, like medical's generally disregarded.
I don't know if you can answer this. I know I can't answer it. Any knowledge why Credit Karma is usually 30 to 40 points off, usually higher than lender credit report?
Yeah, you see, the agencies require lenders to use a more conservative model, and what Credit Karma has is it's a consumer friendlier model. So that's why there's going to be a difference in credit scoring, because we're using an older model, and that's the difference.
Well, that's interesting. All right. So is there anything else that you haven't covered that we need to talk about? Or
yeah, no, I was just kind of like, we all know it's just been a fragile market, market compression, but we're hanging in there. So we're hanging in there. Just one more quick, just very, very quickly, something else to think about. If your client has a collection and the collection is 4 or 5 years old, okay, unless you can get the collection company to delete the account, it may be better just to leave it alone if the lender will allow that. Because when you pay off a seasoned collection account, it brings it back to current and it will lower the score. Like what I suggest to my clients is, if we need to do this, go to them and ask them, hey, we'll make the payment, but you agree in writing to delete it, not to show paid derogatory, but to literally delete the account. That can help. So at any rate, if you do have any questions on this, or feel free to give me a call. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. But
Just send me the PowerPoint. I don't know if I have it or not. I may have put it in an actual,
sure.
you know what I mean? I may have it, I may not, but just send it to me in a PDF and I'll send it out to anybody that asks me for it. So
Yeah, I'll send that right out to you. But thanks for
excellent.
attending.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. So have a great day.
Hey, you too. Take care. Thanks, Dave.
Sure. Thanks.
Bye.